Hi folks, it's Emily again, all poised for my second YouTube video ever. Yay! And I'm about to rant again. I'm sure you may have noticed that I've changed my pants. That happens quite a lot. This time because it's dark up in Alaska and I have a really crappy lamp in my living room. I'm actually in the bathroom, sitting in the bathroom sink, trying to get a better shot of my pants so the video quality is not so incredibly crappy. So if you still want to hear me rant about what's on my mind, then keep listening. So, I'm still watching the news, and I keep getting more and more upset the longer that I listen to it. And it's not the news people are actually doing a fantastic job covering the stories, but what I'm upset about is the way that the hospital, in this Ebola case, is trying to now criminalize this poor nurse that handled the situation of learning that the gentleman with the Ebola case in the United States had been in Liberia, was from Liberia, and then apparently did not communicate that fact to the rest of the team. So here's the thing, guys. So the way they're trying to put it out right now is, oh, well, it's not our fault because the nurse knew, and the nurse didn't tell us, didn't tell the rest of us. Really? Really? They mentioned several times, oh, we have this professional staff of this team of all of these different people interacting, and oh, the nurse was the one missing link. No, absolutely not. That is completely not true. That poor nurse is not the reason that that man got sent home. Where was the doctor? Where was the other nurses, the intake staff, the exiting staff, the ambulance drivers? All of the other people on that supposed team, why did none of them talk to this man who has an accent, a very obvious accent, who's very obviously African? None of them, except the nurse, thought to even ask him if he had been in Africa and had possibly been exposed to Ebola, and now they're trying to put all of this pressure and put all of the responsibility that they released this Ebola patient back out into the wilds of America to infect dozens of other people and possibly, spread a major pandemic across the United States on this one nurse because that information didn't get communicated. The first thing that should have happened when he walked into the hospital was somebody should have asked him, have you been traveling recently? The answer would have been yes. Where did you travel? Oh, West Africa. How about that? Oh, let's put him in isolation. He might have Ebola. Did that happen? No. That didn't happen at all. He got talked to by multiple people, many people on this team they were so proud about mentioning that they had. And none of those team members, who were doctors, multiple doctors and staff, none of them came in and asked him, hey, by any chance, are you from Liberia? Mr., tall, dark, and handsome man that has an African accent. No? Okay. It doesn't completely take the fault off of the nurse for, not mentioning the huge important fact that this guy was from Liberia. But, the nurses are not on the same level of education as a doctor is. And the doctors have a lot more responsibility under their belt than a nurse does. So you'd think that instead of trying to point a finger at this poor nurse and saying, oh, it's all your fault, you're the reason this person got sent home because you didn't tell the rest of us he could possibly have Ebola. No. The doctors that had, 7 to 15 years of medical training on top of all of the other training that they go through to be doctors in a hospital emergency room in a major metropolitan area like Dallas, Texas, and they're not mentioning the fact that that person, that doctor that he was in the care of, didn't bother coming in this man's room and saying, hey, you're a dark-skinned man with an African accent. Have you by any chance been to Africa lately? Since you have a fever and are throwing up and, there's this whole, huge Ebola pandemic happening right now. No, that didn't happen. So yeah, I'm upset yet again because they're, instead of just taking responsibility and saying, I screwed up, we're sorry, They're not saying that. They're saying, oh, no, you know what? It wasn't really the hospital's fault. It was that one silly nurse that just didn't communicate with us. Like, no, get your crap together. You have major degrees that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, a decade of your time to get. You can't tell me that you're not smart enough to screen people. And so this also reminds me of when I was sick a few weeks ago, because I get sick a lot because I have cancer. So, I went into the hospital, I had the flu, and I had major bronchitis, and and I just posed the question. I was like, hey, there's this enterovirus going around, and it hasn't really hit Alaska that hard yet. I mean, it's in a bunch of the states now. It wasn't quite as far spread when I was sick. And I was like, well, is there any way, I just asked them, hey, is there a way of finding out which version of the flu I have? Because there's a lot of different versions of the flu. I mean, it's kind of got this designer label now. It has all these spiffy numbers and letters, and, I'd kind of like to know which one I probably have immunity to now, because, like, what if it was the H1N1? Well, like, that's actually really helpful for me to know that in the future, because maybe that means I can be around somebody later that has H1N1, and I'm not going to get sick from it again, You'd think they'd also want to know numbers like that. Like, oh, is it this crazy enterovirus thing that's going around that's hospitalizing all these kids? Is it a different version of the flu? Was it one that had a vaccine for? Was it one of the ones that didn't have a vaccine? But, the doctors told me, they're like, oh, no, we don't test for that. What? What do you mean you don't test for that? I'm here drowning in my own mucus, and all you have to do is get a little tiny chunk of that nasty green stuff and, put it in a petri dish, and a couple days later you'll know exactly which virus it was that I had. But you're not going to bother? Even though I asked you to do it? Yeah, they just shrugged it off. Like, no, we wouldn't possibly do anything stupid like that. And when I see, there's a lot of people that go in that are sick, but if a patient actually specifically asks to get tested, why not? Why not test them? Those are numbers that can get delivered as a survey to the CDC, to the World Health Organization, to local doctors. Hey, by the way, we saw this many patients this week that had this version of a virus or this version of the flu. Maybe if we knew more of that information, next year we can prepare for it better by having more vaccinations for different kinds of viruses. Or maybe you would find that there's a presence of viruses that you didn't really realize were there so prevalent. Like, this enterovirus just creeped up on everybody. Where did it come from? How did it spread from 10 states to 47 states and get so bad so fast? And they don't really know how or when or where it started. They don't know that information because they didn't test anybody until all of a sudden they realized, hey, we have a lot of kids that are in the emergency room in the intensive care unit because they had the flu and are getting this whole nasty pneumonia thing as a consequence. Maybe we should start testing and seeing what's actually going on. And they're like, oh, hey, look, now that we've actually finally taken a look at this, we realize that it's this weird version of this virus that we really shouldn't be seeing. Where did this come from? Well, they probably would have seen it. They would have seen a paper trail if they had been keeping a paper trail, but they weren't keeping a paper trail. And they don't want to keep a paper trail. They don't want to spend the money. They don't want to spend the time or the effort to create that data stream, that paper trail, so that our doctors and our citizens can be informed. And I don't want to go ranting for all of 10 minutes, so I'm just going to say goodbye now. Thank you so much for looking at my videos. I love you all. Take care. Bye.